Welcome to the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy brown, holy brown, holy brown, holy brown.
This is a Spirit Session podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hey, beautiful friend. It's your Ayurveda Gal Friday here, your spirit-seeking sister, Katie Silcox, here with another podcast for you. What is going on? We are in the throes over here at the Shakti School of August. We have just finished our Hot Girls Summer. And I have to tell you, I was on vacation right after Hot Girls Summer ended and trying to have my own little Hot Girls Summer. Hurricane Debbie had other feelings about that, but I was in a grocery store down in North Carolina and I was standing in line at Starbucks and I saw a woman walking up to me, and lo and behold, it was so funny. She said, "Happy Hot Girl Summer. I am one of your new students for level 1. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so fun. And yet again, you guys, I got busted in line at the Starbucks. I was ordering a matcha tea, to be fair, but it's so cool. And she had heard about our program on the podcast, and it's just so fun to actually meet one of you in real life. And when we're doing these podcasts, it can really feel like we're just kind of talking to the wind. So shout out to all of our women who signed up for Hot Girl Summer level 1. Guys, you have plenty of time. You've got early bird, but we would love to have you in our upcoming webinar. We're going to do another one in August. Links are going to be in the show notes. We are going to have so much freaking fun. We're going to do an Ayurveda Spa Day virtual event. Come on, come one, come all, bring your bestie. Let's have an Ayurveda Spa Day. I'm going to teach you totally for free the best beauty tips and tricks for having that Ayurveda glow that we all dream of, that we all want. And I will tell you, I've been in this industry, I've been in this way of thinking for a really long time. And, I dabble in lots of different things, but I was telling this to my sister Mary. It's so funny. I always come back to the Ayurveda basics. Always. Why? Because 5,000 years is a long time to get it right. And what I love about Ayurveda beauty care is that it is so holistic, and it starts from the gut. How's your gut health? Are you hydrated? Are you drinking water with lemon in the morning? Are you drinking warm water? Are you drinking hot water? Are you drinking ice water, right? We know that we want to be drinking that warm belly water. We want warm or even hot water. That helps remove ama. What are you eating? Are you chewing your food? Are you eating in a beautiful environment in an unrushed way? Are you praying over your food? Are you thanking the food that will become your beautiful body, right? What is your relationship with your body? Are you sending it messages of self-critique or self-care? And we have to start from that place, because if we just slap on the latest eye cream or hyaluronic acid, we are literally putting paint on a building that has 5,000 layers of paint. We actually, in Ayurveda, we dig down. We kind of get all the way to the wood. And as my beautiful teacher says, did you know that you are putting paint on a diamond? You know? And so Ayurveda is about not just putting on one more coat of paint, but actually like digging down. It's almost like a subtraction process in a way to find the inner light and the inner beauty. And so I just want to start this podcast off by saying, first of all, you gotta come to our Ayurveda spa day. I'm so excited to be there with you. It's gonna be so fun. And bring your friend. It's totally free. Why not? And we can do like a spa day together. Secondly, before we give you guys all of these amazing products and recipes and tips and tricks and protocols for doing your own at-home Ayurveda spa day, like pause button. Why? What's the point of all of this? It's huge. I was doing lecture webinar yesterday for Spirit Sessions, our membership, and I was speaking about our sexuality and how there are these realms that we all get really contracted around. And one of them is food. And the other is body image and our sexuality. And then the other, of course, is money. So like these are some, if not the most tricky realms of navigation, contraction. And it's like starting to like open up around these things and be really honest. And I think there's this sort of unspoken and sometimes spoken knowledge amongst women that we learn from a very young age that I really learned. And if you've read any of my books or taken my classes, you already know this, but some of you don't. Like I was raised Southern Baptist. I come from a long line of freaking beautiful women, like crazy pretty. My mom was John S. Battle High School homecoming queen runner-up. She was a runner-up. That's all right. She still got a sash. And, you know, my beautiful cousins and, you know, we're all like models and beauty queens. And my grandmother, I've told this story, but I think maybe on the podcast, but I remember going to my grandmother's funeral. And there we all were, like these big, beauty, tall blondes and, you know, standing in line, waiting for everyone to give their condolences to us. And we'd all really tried to look beautiful because my grandmother, Mary Bell Jessie, loved being beautiful. She loved her makeup. She had one of those 1950s makeup chairs and tables. I don't even know what they're called. You know, where you have your mirror and that mirror where you can see everything up close and the light bulbs and like all the little containers for your makeup and your jewelry and your Pond's, you know, your Neutrogena, your eye creams and this and that. And I just remember being a little girl and like going in there and just seeing this like grandma's beauty center, you know, and like granddaddy certainly didn't have that. So Grandma Mary Bell dies, and we all, in honor of her, get very beautified. And so we're all standing there in line, and this old man hobbles up to this like wall of blondes, and he says, "Why, my, you are all such beautiful creatures, but I will tell you, every one of you would have had to stand in back of line compared to your grandmother." And I thought, well, ain't that nice? How nice. And it was kind of a joke, and we all laughed and we all cried, you know, and we thought that was so great because Grandma wanted to be the prettiest. The prettiest. And it meant a lot to her. And of course, that has fun and beauty. And then there's, of course, the shadow side of that, which I will tell you that my grandmother grew up cooking a lot of meals in a galley kitchen in the back of the house without her own bank account and no real external power at all. She relied on my grandfather, Wild Bill Jessie, to pay for everything. And she wanted so badly just to be bought a dishwasher. That would have made her life so amazing to be able to just have a dishwasher. And she cooked many a meal for many a man and stood in the kitchen, made up with her hair curlers and her makeup. And that 1950s woman, like, very much was her reality. You know, understandably, my mother wanted more for herself than that. And so she, don't be confused, still inherited that Grandma Mary Bell Jessie bloodline. She wanted to be beautiful. But my mom wanted to be a career woman, and that is what she did. And she's become an amazing interior designer, and she has her own business. She's very much a self-made woman. And my mom went to New York City, and she learned design, and she learned from many, many people, including her mentor, Betty Moneyhun. These are all real names, by the way, you guys. Betty Moneyhun. I grew up in the antique stores and the going, picking and learning how to just find the most pretty china. And honey, that's an antique, and that's this and that. And there I was, little Katie Silcox, with my mom learning how to pick out the most beautiful things, right? Antiques. And my mom would go around and paint people's houses decoratively and move around their furniture and buy them things and art. And we'd go to the High Point Furniture Market and the New York City furniture markets. And I just grew up, right, around so much beauty. My mother has Venus in the first, if you know about astrology. And so outer beauty and making your home beautiful, like my mom is so gifted, and I am the recipient of this gift. And there's a funny story. My mom was in New York City, and many of you may know, and if not, you should watch this documentary. There's a very famous fashion photographer in New York named Bill Cunningham, and he would do the New York Times front page fashion. And he would go out into the streets and he would find the hippest, coolest looking, vibey people and take their photos, and like that would inform fashion. And so he would really find the people that were moving fashion forward. And then, of course, the great fashion houses would copy these people. And so, lo and behold, Bill Cunningham himself saw my little country bumpkin, Virginia Mama Vera, in the streets, in the flea markets of New York City, picking, the pretty things. And he stopped my mother. I think she was in her late 30s. What a beautiful age. And he said, "Can I take your picture?" And he did. And my mother ended up on the front page of the New York fashion section and somehow got a sight of this and was just like astounded. And so she takes the front page to my grandfather, Bill Jesse. Now you have to imagine, these were Virginia, Ohio people, farmers, right? I come from a lineage of farmers and hillbillies. And my grandfather ended up in the bowling alley and trailer park industry and actually did really, really well for himself. But you guys can imagine, my grandfather. And my mom pulls out this front page of the New York Times and she says, "Look, Daddy, I'm on the front page of the New York Times fashion section." And what I didn't tell you is that my mom was wearing a pair of overalls, but like she looked amazing, right? And she had on like a white button down and she had her hair all up on top of her hair, like very like sort of Sex in the City, Carrie Bradshaw. She looked like Carrie freaking Bradshaw. And hip as hell. And Granddaddy took a look at that front page and he went, "Honey, I don't think I'd be showing that to anybody. You're wearing overalls." Like for him, it's like women aren't wearing overalls to be fashionable. Like this is actually an embarrassing moment. Well, that leads us to this whole idea of beauty. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What was beautiful for Granddaddy Jesse was not beautiful to my mother and vice versa. And yet I come from this lineage where female beauty and the way we look, it was important and it was valued. And of course, it wasn't the only thing that was valued, but it was something that we learned. And I know that I'm not unusual. I know that my story will resonate with probably almost everyone listening. We are all under this sort of social, cultural way of seeing things as beautiful. And it very much is social and cultural. And we can kind of poo-poo that, right? Like, these sort of oppressive beauty standards. And that's true and something to look at. But the other side of it is our nature and our biology and the way for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, even including our ancestors of monkeys and apes and gorillas, like we like certain things. We find certain things attractive and beautiful and sexy and We tend to like things that are very symmetrical in terms of facial features. I mean, men tend to like women who portray things that give them indications of their fertility. And, women tend to be attracted to men who give them indications of signs that they can protect them and provide for them. And these are just sort of things that emerge both out of our biology, but also our culture. And we want to be aware of them. But we also want to go deeper, and we want to not just put another paint coat on the house. We want to go deeper, and we want to find the interior walls of the castle, because the interior walls are made of diamonds, but they're not the kind that need outer light to shine. They are self-effulgent gems. And so in this discussion on beauty, and I hope you'll join us for our Ayurveda Spa Day, where I will give you all the beautiful practical things that will help your skin glow and will give you that radiance. But no sort of inquiry into Ayurvedic beauty is at all in any way complete unless we address this deep spiritual root tap that Ayurveda holds. And that is the definition of health, whether it be teeth health, hair health, skin health. The definition is svastha, to be seated in the truth of who you really are. Who am I? How many of you, raise your hand, have known a very beautiful person, man or a woman? And when you got to know them, there's so many layers on their light that you were turned off. Maybe they were very selfish or uncaring and uncompassionate or super narcissistic. Like, the beauty goes really fast. And how many of you have known someone that maybe upon first glance you would never describe as beautiful, and yet, oh my God, you couldn't get enough of them? Man or woman, they had a light, they had a charisma, they had a charm, they had a poetry about them that made them beautiful. This deep inner beauty is what I'm interested in. And yet, I want my skin to look good. I want to be youthful for as long as possible. I want to be healthy. But I mostly want to be healthy from that deep Ayurvedic understanding of the word svastha, to be situated in the truth of who I actually really am. And who am I? There is a part of us that is seeking who we are. There is an intuitive felt sense somewhere deep within that knows that who I really am has nothing to do with the outer beauty standards. So I want to give you 3 quick stories about the 3 most beautiful women I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of beautiful women, especially as like the founder of a women's school. I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by the light of women a lot and all the time, and their beauty is everywhere. But there are 3 moments in my life where I was witness to some harrowing beauty. The first was my good friend Liz Reynolds, who is a listener of the podcast. I've talked about her a few times on the podcast, and I was up at the rooftop pool at the gym that we both go to, and she came in and she sat down and she released her long flowing brown hair, and I saw this softness in her face and this light in her eyes. And I went, what is going on? You look so beautiful. And she looked at me and she said, that's so funny. I just did a 10-day, or maybe it was a 30-day. It was an extended period of time. I just did a social media detox. I haven't looked at any social media for 30 days. And I went, wow, I can see it on your face. You're more beautiful. The second moment of beauty that I want to share with you was when I was young and I was at a place called Harbin Hot Springs, this very funny place. It's a nude hot springs near San Francisco, California. You know, you see lots of beautiful people and beautiful creatures running around California. But this woman emerged from her chambers, walked down these wooden stairs to the sauna or the spa, and I looked up at her, and I'd just started studying Ayurveda. And I looked up and I went, oh, that's the most beautiful woman. I said, hi. And she said, hi. And I said, wow, you're radiating. Like, who are you? I want to know you. And she said, oh, and she gave me her name. I won't share it. Anyways, she was like a sort of well-known Ayurvedic practitioner in the Bay Area. And honestly, I can't tell you how old she was, but I would say maybe looking back, maybe she's in her 50s, early 50s. I can't tell you what wrinkles she had or didn't have. All I saw was that her skin was luminous. And she proceeded to tell me about Abhyanga, which I hadn't heard of until then. And I was like, wow, okay. So she was oiling her body. She's like, so I just put on this Abhyanga oil and gave myself this Abhyanga, and she gave me the name brand and of the oil she used. And I was just so fascinated. It was like the first time I'd ever heard the word Abhyanga. And she was luminous. Her skin was radiating. She had the oil on, and she was going to wash it off later. Beauty. Nothing to do with the way she looked. Nothing to do with her age. She had given herself a massage. Third moment, one of my dear friends' weddings. And I remember being her bridesmaid. I remember the moment when she walked in. You all know the like, dun, 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 dun. You know, here comes the bride. And she met him. And she turned, and she's quite small. She was a short woman, and he was very tall. And she looked up at him, and I saw a woman deeply in love, but more importantly, so happy. She was so happy to be marrying, and to be marrying him. And I remember I didn't see what her hair looked like. I didn't see what her dress looked like. All I could see was how much this bride wanted to be married. And that was the third example of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Their beauty, I can't even remember their age, their wrinkles, their lack of them, their youth, their eldership, their clothing, their eye cream, their makeup. I don't remember. I just remember a woman who had freed herself from the confines of the way social media contracts us, divides us, tells us we're not good enough, we're not beautiful enough. We belong to this group, we don't belong, we're wanted, we're worthy, we're not. She had freed herself from the whole matrix. And the second woman who had spent the morning just rubbing her skin with an oil extracted from the essence of a plant. The word for oil in Ayurveda is sneha. It means the essence of the plant, but it's also a stand-in word for love. She coated her body in a layer of love. And the third woman was the embodiment of Shakti herself. Shakti is feminine power. And one of the words we use to describe Shakti is the word Shri, S-R-I. Shri means, if we were to try to begin to start to define it, it means the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful one. She who is resplendent and radiant and luminous and glowing. And you all know what I'm talking about. Shri cannot be bottled and it cannot be sold. It is the spontaneous Sahaja yoga that emerges when we feel joy, authentic joy. There is nothing more beautiful than a woman who is just happy, laughing, than a woman who's been loved on, than a woman who's been seen, than a woman who's learned how to see herself as the most resplendent one, because she is here and she is worthy of love precisely because she breathes in and she breathes out. So I invite you to join me this end of August. The date, the time, and the place is all here for you. Go to the link in the show notes and come and be with me in this Ayurveda spa day. I promise you, it's not going to be like any other spa day you've ever done, because we're going to move from what we moved from in this podcast. And that is pause button. Am I doing a beauty regime? No, thank you. Am I doing a beauty routine? No, thank you. Am I doing a beauty ritual dedicated to the smarana, the remembrance of my inner light and my inner beauty and my inner worthiness and my inner freaking humor? By the way, humor resonates really high on the frequency of advancement towards enlightenment. Like, am I doing it from that place? Then sign me up. And I struggle with this, guys. Like, I told you about my lineage. I struggle with it. I can very easily fall into this place of wanting to be pretty so that I'll be loved for the way I look. I fall into it just like we all might. And it's a practice. And these rituals have helped me so much in learning how to return to the point, to the purpose, which is to remember that you already are so beautiful. This beauty comes out of the light of your eyes and the curvature of an upward smile. It comes out of the realness of heartbreak and the truth around the reality of all of the emotions. And so I hope that this podcast has touched your heart. And I truly hope you'll join us for this free webinar, this celebration, this ritual around beauty that we are all going to be embarking upon. My whole team will be there. I know we're going to have a lot of ladies from our course there, and I would love to have you new ladies who are thinking about joining us in January. We would love to have you. Bring your friend. Again, it's just a love offering. It's a free class, and I can't wait to see you there. You are beautiful. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.